Welcome back to our channel. Last video, I discussed how difficult it was to get a real estate agent to come for an interview to sell our family home, and how we ended up with a great listing agent at a reduced compensation. I also talked about how we decided on our list price and what it was, and how we created some real excitement and buzz with the coming soon period that featured beautiful pictures of our house inside and out. We went active with professional photos and a self-guided video tour of our house that our agent provided within his reduced listing compensation. So all that set us up to get requests for 47 showings in 4 days. And I mentioned in the previous video that our listing agent was not going to sit on the property for 4 days to accompany the showings within a reduced listing commission, or compensation, I guess is the word now. So in this video, I'll talk about how my husband and I managed 47 showings in 4 days. That is a ton of foot traffic through your home. And it was a great problem to have, though. We were really excited. Because we did have so many showings scheduled, we decided that we would take offers for 4 days, close out the offer period at the end of the 4th day. That ended up being a Sunday night. And then on Monday morning, we met with our real estate agent and reviewed the offers and made our decision. I'll describe what my husband and I did those 4 days to help yield 7 written offers during that time. I think we actually did help. Our agent set us up in the Showing Time app, and we got text messages on our phone when a new showing was scheduled. We kept everything really well organized in a calendar. And we didn't want a lockbox on our door. They're clunky, they don't always work, and we had just repainted all the doors and we didn't want a lockbox banging up our door. So we had a programmable lock on the door, and that worked so great. We were able to give our listing agent a code, and we requested that all the buyers be accompanied by a buyer's agent. So the buyer's agents were only able to get the code from our listing agent. So we really had a good trail of security around who had access to the house. The great thing about the programmable lock was that it notified us whenever anyone used that code to enter the house. So the showing schedule was jam-packed for the 4 days. I had gotten the house to be sparkling clean. My husband had gotten the yard to look beautiful. And we just decided, let's get a hotel room for the 4 days. That way we're not sleeping in the house. Simplified the morning routine, and then everything would smell fresh and clean. And we didn't so much as have a toothbrush on the property. So the house really read like nobody lived there. Fortunately, it was only a 4-day showing period, so we could do that. But showing appointments would pop up on our phone with sometimes very little notice. And so we were able to be agile. We weren't trying to live there, eat there, work there. The house was available to be showed really at any hour of the day for those 4 showing days. So that just worked great. The tricky part was that we wanted the last showing of the day to be as good as the first showing of the day. And I was really worried about all that foot traffic, what the bathrooms were going to be like, how much dirt was going to be on the floor, kids, dogs, all of that. This is how we handled it. Each day, my husband and I would get up early in the morning. We'd pick up our Dunkin' Donuts coffee and we'd drive to the house. My husband was awesome. He would go out in the yard, he'd pick up any sticks, any leaves, he watered the plants. He set out front and back porch mats, which I had bought special for the showings and wanted to keep clean, so we would bring them in at the end of the day. He would bring all that out. I had some porch plants, and he would bring those out and set them in place. And so he worked outside, and I went inside. And I started on the top floor and worked my way down to the basement. I made sure all the interior lights were on, the blinds were raised, The closet doors were closed, all drawers were closed. I Swiffered the floors, touched up 2 full bathrooms and 2 half bathrooms, made sure blankets, pillows, couch cushions, rugs at the doors were straight, and I turned on the fireplace. And just before that first showing, we made sure that the code worked on the door, and we'd locked up and we left. So we got in our car and we drove down the street to the end of the cul-de-sac. So I guess we were about 12 houses away, just far enough where we could really just make out cars pulling up and sometimes pulling into our driveway or parking on the street, people getting out and walking up to our front door. We couldn't really make out too many specifics, but we could see when people entered. And then, of course, when they used the code to enter the house, we got a message on our phones, so we knew they were in there. And while they were in there, we had no cameras, we weren't doing any audio or video, and we would wait until we could either see them coming out and we got the message from our phone that the door had been locked. Then my husband would pull up the car to the house when they left, and I would jump out and I would go through that whole routine again, turning back on the lights, closing the closet doors, check the bathrooms. And twice the bathrooms were left with number 2 in the toilet, and I had to get out the cleaner and just, kind of clean up the bathroom. So thank goodness that only happened twice. So almost every showing, though, lights were turned off that we wanted on, doors were left open that we wanted closed, and things were ajar. So going in and straightening up made everything look well done and for the next showing. In the afternoons, I had to manage the fireplace a little bit. The sun would stream through the family room windows at the same time the fireplace was on, and so the family room would get a little warm, and so I managed the fireplace. Buyers wouldn't think something was wrong with our air conditioning, because nobody runs the fireplace, in late spring when it's, sunny outside. It was things like that we did that helped every showing be like a first. So surprisingly, sometimes there were massive crowds, multiple cars, lots of kids, lots of dogs. It seemed like showings at the same time that necessarily didn't show up on our phones. So it was kind of hard to track from time to time. It would cause some anxiety. So we would try to get in the house, after a crowd appeared and left, and a little chaotic. But the weather was beautiful. It was very nice. It was dry outside. It was sunny, so we got really lucky with that. And really, in general, I would say the people were very respectful for the most part, except the 2 times when the toilet was messed up. The challenging part was finding time to run in there. So my husband, a couple of times, he would run me up, I would jump in, and I would have very little time. People would be coming in the front door as I was skulking out the back door, running through the neighborhood, and my husband would open up the car and pick me up on the back street. It was kind of fun. And like I said, what a nice problem to have. The only other home selling experience my husband and I ever had, we were really young, and we had bought a condo when we first got married. And of course, about 3 years into owning the condo, we wanted to sell it and buy a house. We were thinking about having a family. And our condo was on the market for 2 years. It was the early 1990s. The market was terrible. We got no showings for like months and months at a time. It was really bad. And because there were so many of the same type of unit up for sale at the same time, interest rates were high. I don't know if you can believe it, but I think they were over 9%. And so we really felt so blessed and so lucky that with the house, things were totally different, that there was all this interest in the house. And so we were really excited. And by the way, on that condo, we lost $15,000 after owning it for 5 years. So real estate is such an up and down thing, and it's a bit like stocks. Fortunately, having a house and holding it, buying it and holding it for 28 years was beneficial. So there's a little bit of real estate advice for a young person out there that might see this video. In the evenings, my husband and I would close up shop, pull in the rugs and take in the plants and straighten up the house, and we would head back to the hotel. And that's when our real estate agent would communicate to us any offers that started to come in, any questions that he got from buyer's agents. And there were 3 surprises besides the number 2 in the toilet. So a couple of times when we were sitting down at the end of the cul-de-sac, we would see a single person pull up and go in the house. And that could have been a real estate agent looking for their buyer, on behalf of their buyer. But then there was a couple of times when a couple would pull up in a car, get out and go in the house, and there was no visible agent to be found. Even though we had requested that all showings be accompanied by a buyer's agent, we really do think there was a couple of times when they weren't. And the second surprise that we got was obviously that you really can't trust a buyer's agent to pick up after their clients or leave the house like they found it. So I'm glad we didn't count on that. I really didn't expect, I guess, a buyer's agent to clean up a bathroom after their client. I am glad that we took matters into our own hands and looked after our property. It was a bit of a risk of running into the buyers and the buyer's agents, but that's really what we had to do. And the last surprise was that some of the questions that we got in the evenings from the buyer's agents were things that were already covered in the listing on the MLS and on the Zillow sites and the Redfins and the whatevers, or they were in the disclosures. So we were happy to answer those questions, of course, and we can't expect everybody to remember everything. Real estate agents, both our listing agent and the buyer's agent, they were really valuable when it came to communicating with each other and doing the paperwork. But you cannot count on them to be boots on the ground for you or physically present to look out for your property. And that's what we found. And was that disappointing? A little, for the money that we spent. But, I would rather have the legal documentation and the communication be effective than for somebody to be sweeping my floor. I can do that. So in the next video, I'm actually going to show you the 7 offers, the written offers that we received, and how we as the sellers read those offers, and how we picked one. It wasn't the technically highest offer that we got. And please comment if you've gone through the showing process and or selling your house. I'd love to hear about your experience and how that went for you. There is not a lot of information out there on YouTube from sellers. And it really is important to get the seller perspective out there, because I think sellers kind of take it on the chin sometimes. So my husband and I are new retirees, and we wanted to trade in our family home, which was hard. We had great memories of our home, and we loved it so much. And I do explain in a previous video how we made the decision to do this. But we wanted to trade our family home in for 2 properties of a lesser value. We wanted to be mortgage-free after this transaction occurred and end up with 2 properties. One about 30 minutes from a beach that we could share with our kids and gather with our adult kids and possibly grandchildren if someday we get them. And another property, again, a condo, yes, a condo, closer to our family and friends. This channel is really about our journey through that process of redefining and downsizing home and retirement. How we're doing that on a budget. We are not rich by any means. And if you like specifics, this is the channel for you. So please subscribe. It's free to you, and it really helps us to keep going. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.